Let's start with the economy. Astounded to read this morning, Michael, CFMEU, they're pushing for a more than 5% pay rise. Zach Smith says workers shouldn't have to have their capacity to earn decent money limited by failed, he calls, neoliberal economics. At the same time, you've got Terry McLaren saying we've got to have a wage accord. We've got to cap wages at 3%. He says it's fuelling inflation. And if we keep fueling inflation and we're going to keep jacking up interest rates, Phil Lowe said yesterday the biggest issue he's got on his desk, aside from inflation, is productivity. And those pay pushed by the union, they're dangerous, aren't they?
Well, I agree completely. Look, I understand people that are trying to pay off a mortgage or they're trying to get the capital together so they can afford ever-increasing rental or something like that, or pay the power bill, heaven forbid, are asking of their employers for more capital to do it because that's the only place you go other than welfare. But, I mean, I think really, Peter, and you touched on this earlier, I think you're right. The main problem here really is government. I mean, the Reserve Bank, they've got one lever, they pull it. Perhaps they pushed it in one direction too hard during the GFC and beyond. We got the rates too low. Maybe they've pulled it a bit hard in the other direction to play catch-up. But nonetheless, that's the one lever they've got. But government have a myriad of policies at their disposal which very directly affect people's cost of living pressures. Energy, which you touched on. I mean, the fact we have energy prices in this country with the cornucopia of resources we have to create affordable and reliable energy, that is a failure of government. And that has to be paid for somehow. And similarly with the housing situation, it's driven by push and pull factors, controlled almost entirely by the three, or particularly state and federal levels of government. And so, look, there's a lot of buck passing here. Trying to say, look over here, look at Philip Lowe, he's the bad guy, let's get rid of him in September. I'm not sure that all the blame should weigh on his shoulders at all.
Look, I agree with you there, and we can see just in these statistics how tough people are doing it, Caroline.
Yeah.
Data out today that says the savings to income ratio has fallen to 3.7%. First 3 months of this year, that's the lowest level in nearly 15 years. That number means that people are dipping hard into their savings just to keep their head above water. And of course, we're hearing Westpac was out there today saying they've had a lot of people make contact in relation to financial hardship. This is where it's going to bite for the government, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, it is disturbing to hear so many people are contacting their banks to try and see if a hardship arrangement is for them. Now, that's not people necessarily entering into these arrangements, but just testing the waters to see how they can get out of this desperate situation. And of course, for the government, if more people can claim hardship, then they might be vulnerable to having to give hardship loans as well that are available through Centrelink. I mean, the situation is clearly bleak. We've seen yet another rate rise this week. Economists are tipping there's going to be at least another one before the end of the year, could be as high as to 4.35%. It's very difficult for families right now, and I don't think that they're just going to accept a government who says, well, look, this is out of our control, we're doing what we can.